under constant missile and drone attack, essentially being targeted. Some commercial ships were hit. Very serious threat. How'd you hold up?
I think, and you will hear this from everybody across the strike group. The captain of Eisenhower, Captain Chris Hill, spends a lot of time talking about this. I think mission and purpose matter. This is the United States Navy was formed 249 years ago to specifically do things like protect maritime commerce, to establish sea control. And so, I think the fact that there was a righteous mission there was probably it gave us mission and purpose and mattered more than anything else. But the training, confidence in your equipment, and it's what I found really interesting was humans can normalize, all kinds of real difficult situations. It starts off, first couple of times you deal with it, first couple of times you deal with a threat, you're a little bit more puckered, you're a little bit more uptight about it. But it's amazing how humans can normalize things. And we've seen examples through history of soldiers and sailors in combat that just deal with highly stressful, very difficult situations, and they normalize it. I mean, I think we've shared this. You and I have shared this discussion before about USS Laboon. They'll give you anecdotes about sailors sitting around eating their corn dogs. General quarters getting called away because of an inbound attack. You run off, you take care of business, you get things done. Then you come back and you finish your corn dog.
Roger that, Admiral. Well, gosh, when I was on deck and the USS Laboon came back, one of the things you mentioned when you were talking to Warrior is the importance of maritime warfare doctrine. And you mentioned training. Clearly, the crew, there were advanced weapon systems. They stepped up under fire in combat situations. How does that align with what the Navy does, both in terms of doctrine, concepts of operation, and, of course, training?
Yeah, I'll talk about a few different things here. And I think I'll start with training because it does start with training. And conceptually, we are a rotationally deployed force. And the way the United States Navy defends our country is by a forward presence. The model is that something goes wrong in the world, we're already going to be out there close enough either to the problem or close enough to get to the problem relatively quickly. So what that, so that homeland defense is an away game, if you will. The way we prepare for that is you essentially go through a training process that's supposed to prepare us to handle just about any contingency. So we go through a series of we start with a 36-month optimized fleet response plan is the way we kind of cycle a particular unit through a training and readiness and training program, and it's split up into almost thirds, if you will, of a third of it's maintenance, a third of it is basic training, and through training from just the fundamentals at the unit level through integrating with similar units into an integrated carrier strike group model, advanced training phase, followed by a certification to be able to go do deployment. And then the last third is going to be being out there either deployed or being prepared to be out there and be deployed. And that training piece is exceptionally important. Once you learn the individual skills required to fight and defend your ship, you learn to fight and defend other ships, in smaller groups together, like ships. And then finally, on the big certification level, the one that prepares you for anything, if you will, is the integrated phase, where you are ships operate together, ships and aircraft operate together as part of a carrier strike group. Typically, 4 destroyers, a cruiser, an aircraft carrier, 75 airplanes, and an air wing, all work together through a certification exercise that involves a series of vignettes. And those vignettes are the thing that kind of get you ready for anything, if you will. You start off with a somewhat of maybe a Middle Eastern scenario, or a European scenario, or a Western Pacific scenario, or you cycle through each of those over the course of several days at a time to prepare both the staff that commands and controls all these units and the individuals that are fighting as part of each of these units to be able to at least get some exposure into what they might see, and have assessors there to kind of to verify their reactions, to verify their procedures, and it's a very effective way of doing things. The trick is to that is when a unit out on deployment experiences something new, something we haven't seen before. You want to incorporate that into your vignettes as you train, but you also part of that training is to prepare the units to train themselves, so that when you see something new, you can train yourself internally as a strike group to be able to deal with those contingencies. So training is huge. Training the teams to train ourselves is extremely important to us. Then we roll into doctrine, right? So doctrine is the thing that allows us to work outside our strike group as well. It allows us to work with our joint partners, say in the Air Force or the Army. In this particular case, in the Red Sea example, doctrine is what allowed us to go into a theater of operations, if you will, the Red Sea, that has been, largely for the past, 3 decades or so, has been a pass-through for us, going on to, the Arabian Gulf, or going into the Persian Gulf, going into the Arabian Sea. We've been operating significantly further east of the Red Sea and have just been passing through there. But doctrine is what allows us to set up within the Red Sea, to be able to put in place command and control measures, airspace control measures, or battle management areas, or restricted operating zones, to be able to manage the complexity of a multi-domain fight without spending a whole lot of time sorting things out. We speak the same language, so with the Air Operations Center, the Air Force Air Operations Center, and the Regional Air Operations Center there, we're able to establish standard command and control measures, and then it'll allow us to kind of the structure to be able to fight multiple fights at the same time in multiple areas. A real shortcut that we train to all the time, and likely again saves a lot of heartache when you're being shot at, if that makes sense.
Yes, roger that. Well, gosh, certainly the Navy has confidence in its weapon systems, but as you talked about at the return of the Laboon, this was the first combat use, the first combat test of a variety of advanced weapon systems like the ARGM or the JSOW. What's your experience as a carrier commander of a strike group defending against drone attacks? I also understand this was the first surface-to-air kill or defeat of a drone attack. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think drones are probably the most kind of visible manifestation of the changing character of war. People talk about, looking at the Ukraine fight, looking at what's going on now with Israel and southern Lebanon, and Israel and Gaza earlier, is the character of war is changing, and cheap drones that are kind of easy to replicate, that are able to be able to launch at scale for not a whole lot of cash, is I think a reflection of what very much of what war is going to look like in the future, and it's a different challenge for again, it goes back to that whole how we train as a Navy and some of those vignettes that we deal with. We've obviously, drones have been around for a while, and we've been training to deal with drones. But I think what we have started to recognize, what the Red Sea really taught us was, it's not going to be just 1 or 2 drones. It's going to be a lot more. So you got to be able to train to dealing with a lot of those. So what goes into that? Probably the biggest consideration from a warfighting perspective is the size of your magazine, or magazine capacity. You've got to be able to have enough bullets to be able to shoot those down. Ideally, as a warrior, I'd want to shoot the Archer before it got launched, or I would want to electronically, through some sort of non-kinetic effect, be able to kind of interfere the command signal from the Archer through that particular drone. But sometimes that's not possible. So if they come at you, if big numbers of these come at you, what you got to be able to do is you got to have a good sized magazine to go after those. So is that missiles? We started off a little bit with shooting standard missiles at those. We very quickly changed to using kind of air-to-air missiles. So that's what we talk about. We got some air-to-air kills with Sidewinder variant missiles. That's what we're talking about there. That's just it's a more effective way to go after those. And